Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a non spoiler review of Star Wars Episode 9 The Rise of Skywalker. So, before I get started, let me just give you a little bit of background briefly. I am a lifelong Star Wars fan. Love George Lucas' Star Wars, as you can probably see around me. I really enjoyed the first 6 episodes and the Clone Wars TV series. The Disney stuff, it is what it is. It is basically Disney turning it into James Bond in space, where they're constantly trying to exploit the franchise by coming out with movies every year. And I'm okay with that. There are a lot of people who wanted more Star Wars movies. They wanted to see Star Wars without George Lucas. A lot of people who want to take their kid to a new Star Wars movie, and that's fine. And I've enjoyed the anthology movies, Rogue One and Solo. I thought those were a good time in the theater, even though they are, derivative of the old stuff. I still enjoyed them. But the new trilogy, I've definitely had some mixed feelings for. I think they're solidly made movies, but I have a lot of issues with them. I don't like the way that they've treated the old characters. I don't like the way that they're very safe and very derivative of the original trilogy, and issues with plot and design, etc. But overall, they do have some good parts in it, some good fight scenes, some good story elements, and overall, they are solidly, competently made movies. Until we get the Rise of Skywalker. The thing about if you're turning the franchise into James Bond in space, inevitably you're going to get to a movie that is going to be just bad. And that is this movie. And it pains me as a Star Wars fan to say this. And keep in mind, this is just my opinion. There are going to be people who see this who think this is the best Star Wars movie ever. To me, this is the worst. This is beyond the worst. This is cheesy. It is ill-conceived. It is ill-executed. I really can't find any substantive redeeming quality. The only thing that I liked in the movie was I got to hear John Williams' rendition of the Star Wars theme and the Imperial March one last time in the theater. And then there was a split-second recognition that there were gay people in the Star Wars universe, and I think that's a very important lesson to teach our kids, and a very important bit of progress and acknowledgement that, we live in a big, diverse world. But that's it. Everything about this movie just was very bad. And I don't want to get into details on that because A, this is not a spoiler review. And B, I don't want to sit here for an hour talking about this. I will just say, I don't know what happened with this movie. Maybe it was creative infighting, the creative tug of wars we've had between the episodes. Maybe it's them trying to pander to, fans who didn't like the previous episode. I don't know. But it just, everything fell off, from the performances to the way the scenes were shot to the story, which I just don't understand how this story even got greenlit. And, a lot of things are just not explained that should have been explained. A lot of things are not wrapped up. Some major plot lines are just dropped altogether, or they're teased and then they're just, not wrapped up or not dealt with at the end at all. It's just bad, and I just really, really disliked it. It's just cheesy in a bad way, and I was just cringing throughout the movie, and I was covering my mouth. I was either doing this number, or I was covering my mouth trying not to laugh at scenes that weren't intended to be funny because they were so cheesy. And that's the first time I've ever had anything like that experience in a Star Wars movie. I've never done that in a Star Wars movie. And it's heartbreaking to me as a fan. But again, there are going to be people who love this movie. There are going to be kids that this is their first Star Wars, and they're going to have fond memories of this. And there are going to be people who maybe they hated whatever it was previously, and this somehow fixed it for them. I don't know how, But if that's you, good. I'm glad you made up for the suffering that I endured while I watched Rise of Skywalker. So since I'm not going to dwell on details because this is non-spoiler, I will just say that my dissatisfaction with Disney's overall direction, which I think has worked out pretty well. I mean, the movies have been successful. Episode, what was it, 7 was The Force Awakens, made over $2 billion. The last movie in the trilogy, The Last Jedi, made over $1 billion. People speak with their wallets. This has been very successful. But to me, what would make these movies better is just more imagination, more daring, getting out of that mold of the original trilogy, which I love. I mean, look, I grew up on the original trilogy. I love it. But it has a very limited palette and a very limited scope. George Lucas was basically working with some very limited technology. There was a lot of things he couldn't do. The planets in that trilogy were there because they were just easy to shoot. He just went to a forest and put down some cameras and shot. He went to a desert and put down a camera and shot. They weren't really alien environments. They were just environments on Earth that, according to the original trilogy, existed on other planets. It wasn't until the prequels that he was able to actually do a lot of the things he wanted to do with the Star Wars movies. And that has a whole plethora of villains and planets and concepts and characters to explore. But Disney is not doing that. They are just focusing on the original trilogy. And I think that's a mistake because, again, it's really great. But we have seen that horse beat to death so many times. We've seen Palpatine resurrected numerous times. We have seen the Empire come back to life millions of times. I mean, there is always a remnant of the Empire. There's always someone hanging around the New Republic that's like, you know what? I think the Empire was pretty good. Let's dust off some Star Destroyers and dress in black and get some stormtroopers. We can make this work this time. Guys, do something else. Anything else. But anyway, yeah, I'm just tired of seeing the original trilogy be rehashed. I just want new ideas. Or expand on stuff that hasn't been expanded on in the prequels and the Clone Wars series. There's plenty of material out there, and you're just focusing on this one little slither of it. And inevitably, that's going to get old and tired. So I would just love to see them, expand this story and take it in new directions, be creative. Star Wars, the first 6 movies were about an experience where you would go someplace new and be exposed to, completely new different characters and planets, and there was just a sense of awe and wonder there I just don't really get out of a lot of these new movies because they're just trying to be so safe. They're just trying to recycle nostalgia, and that just doesn't always work. I mean, you can only get so far with nostalgia. I think, if Disney wants a good example of how to do this, look at the Marvel movies. To me, that is the modern equivalent of what Star Wars was like when I was a kid. Because it's new concepts, new ways of making a movie. It influences everything else around it. Everyone wants to be the Marvel movies. Everyone wants to make movies like that resonate with audiences like the Marvel movies do. And the reason why they're able to do that, again, they are doing new things. Every movie is something new. Every movie is a discovery of a new concept and new characters and a new direction for those characters. And, it's not just like, oh, let's just do the same thing over and over again. Obviously, we can see from movies like The Last Terminator, like, it looked like a really good movie, but people have already seen it, so they just didn't really prioritize, like, oh, I got to go out and spend 3 hours of my life and God knows how much money after I've gotten the popcorn and paid for the kids and et cetera, to sit through this movie, And so I think it would just be great if we could just see something more along those lines, more of, something new and interesting, exciting every episode or every movie. Because I think they've said that, going forward, they're probably not going to do numbered episodes. So anyway, that's really all I got to say. Again, just really disappointed with this movie, and I hope if they do make more movies, there are supposed to be some announcements about that sometime next year, that, they're better. At least better than this. Again, I think Disney's done some good stuff with this franchise. This movie, unfortunately, just was a flaming garbage heap. And that's very sad for me to say. But anyway, so like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, beware of zombie Palpatine. See ya.